What is good, guys and gals, and welcome to the Films and Pixels Podcast, episode 28. I am your host, Afif. And yeah, with the World Cup mania now ongoing, the fever pitch is high for this year's World Cup in Doha, Qatar. And for good reason already, we've seen some upset victories, shocking wins, disappointing losses, highlight plays, and all that good stuff. But this episode is not really about the World Cup or anything like that. You know, as exciting as it may sound. Instead, I do have some good topics at hand that I've placed aside and I do want to talk about for this week's episode. So I'm going to review a couple of movies: Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and The Menu. The second one, so good and so interesting, but I'll mention more of that. Plus, two major names now named as CEO DC Studios, DC Film Studio. While one of the old executives, Walter Hamada, on the way out. I'll talk about him more later on in the episode and his new position, what he'll be up to. Plus, guess who's back as Disney CEO? Yeah, that's right. Not even a year later, and there's already a change back to a familiar name that you're probably aware of. I'll talk about that. Plus, what is Mastodon? I'm going to try to explain Mastodon, what it is, how it's making waves recently, especially with the whole Elon Musk Twitter saga. So that'll be pretty good. So I'm looking forward to these topics. A lot to talk about. Before going forward, if you haven't done so before, please like, comment, subscribe to this channel. If you haven't subscribed before, please, it's a huge boost for me. It means a lot. And I do thank you if you have. Please watch previous episodes of this podcast. It'll be great. Leave a comment. It's great for engagement, good for interaction. So that'll be a lot. Also, if you're not someone that's watching these episodes on YouTube, instead you prefer to listen, that's okay. It's on Spotify and on El-Jamil as well. So, audio streaming platforms, you got the freedom to choose as you like as well. So that'll be good for you. But yeah, without further ado, let's get going. How do you move forward without your lead actor? What do you do when your main protagonist is no longer part of the story as originally scripted? What do you do with your screenplay? How do you alter it and tell a great story and still make all the supporting characters step up into a larger role? This is a situation that everyone from the cast and crew of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever has found themselves in. And this movie has allowed them to really mourn and grieve the loss of Chadwick Boseman, whose death from colon cancer just before the end of August 2020 was shocking, and it still remains upsetting at that time. It's still unexpected for someone who was 43 years old. And this is exactly what everyone has found themselves in. So a movie like Wakanda Forever is forced to move on without their king, who everyone loved and really respected. Someone like him, not just on screen but off screen, really resonated the character of T'Challa. And that's exactly what happened. Which is why I think the prologue scene in the movie was really strong and emotional in a way. It allowed the characters to find a way to really just honor him, and in a sort of Wakanda traditional funeral for T'Challa. But really, this is more about Chadwick Boseman in this scene. And you could tell for the cast members, especially you think that the characters are really mourning him, but it's the actual actors and actresses that really mourn him, miss him dearly, and all that. But this is where, after all that, due to what happened at the end of the first Black Panther film in 2018, when there were promises of sharing their vibranium technology, tension is already seen by the time the actual film opens from the prologue scene, as many nations question Wakanda's initial promise of sharing vibranium. But with Queen Hamada now back in charge, along with Princess Shuri, tensions are raised, and there are even threats of a war between US and Wakanda and what's so and so not and all that. But because of the vibranium revelation and exposure, it does bring another kingdom down under the sea all of a sudden in threat. And this is where characters like Namor becomes the main antagonist of his fictional nation of Talokan, which is kind of interesting. And this is another great villain. Again, I want to say that Ryan Coogler, who made Killmonger, a great villain from the 2018 film, once again made another compelling villain with Namor in this one, in Wakanda Forever. So I thought that was really great. And I love how, a threat rises between two nations, and the technology that they both really need to survive, exceed, and so forth really puts them in conflict. And there's a lot of pressure just to one of them be hiding, one of them protecting. And it's kind of like a political situation that turns violent in some ways. It was actually great for me to see Namor on the big screen for the first time. Due to licensing issues that was in doubt in the past. Just keep in mind when it comes to the origins of his story, I thought it was well explained in the film. But it's different from what was originally written in the comic books. It's just a bit different on purpose, but I'm really fine how it's well depicted in the films as well. I thought it was really good. With the actor really using his Mexican background as if it's like a personal story, personal journey for him. So I thought that was great. And yeah, because of no longer having the king, this forces Shuri and Okoye, who were great supporting characters in the first film, to really step up and have larger roles at this one. And even a great arc was given to Queen Ramonda, as I mentioned earlier. She really gave strong emotional performances, especially somewhere in the second act. And I love how she was a great guidance for her daughter Shuri as well in this film. Also, another great character that came back was Nakia. Now, played by Lupita Nyong'o. She was great and all that. No offense or anything, but I just wasn't sure initially what her presence would mean in this film. As someone like her who had a close connection to T'Challa and explained her absence. And more of her absence is revealed just towards the end that I won't spoil. But again, in this movie for Wakanda Forever, a great ally, a great support system, really wise as well. I really liked Lupita Nyong'o's portrayal in this movie. And so this sort of movie was, in a lot of ways, about protecting T'Challa's legacy. And I thought they did really well here. And once again, just like before, this film was just visually amazing. Again, great visual effects despite the behind the scenes drama going on there, but very colorful. A lot to see here. Despite the Phase 4 era just being somewhat underwhelming, this was really one of the better films and that era of this era as well. And so with characters like Namor having a reason for vengeance, he's sort of a sympathetic villain this way. And when I think about it, his motives are somewhat similar to Killmonger. Both of them have vengeance in common. And they have their own personal reasons. So it just makes them understandable. I really like how Shuri and Namor kind of found common ground with each other. With him kind of explaining who he is, what his reasons are. Just giving more layers to the character himself and how they have similar paths. So this is just something that I really like, and just trying to push their kingdoms, find Wakanda and Talokan for peace, prosperity going forward. This is something that I thought that was great. And despite all the action, it does come to a resolution as well. So who's the character that really drives the plot forward? I would say, it's actually Riri Williams who were introduced to this film. She was really more as a plot device because of someone so young and really so intelligent with her device using some kind of technology to detect vibranium, which really has caused indirectly a war between both nations as well. I do think, in my opinion, her presence in this film was purposely used just as like a precursor to her Disney Plus series Ironheart coming next year as well. But yeah, like despite everything, I still think the film lifts itself up despite the painful loss. And I really like how not just the beginning and the end, like the film, beautifully pays tribute to Chadwick Boseman. I really like the cinematography as well throughout the action sequences in the second act, and especially when they go on scene in the third act. And I really respect the character growth of someone like Shuri, who has every reason to go for vengeance, be bloodthirsty and angry. She made the wiser decision. She made herself look as wise, not just her mother, but also her brother as well, and really honored their legacies as well. I just think she did a great job here. And it's great that at the end, there was no character villain death sort of thing. Sorry if there are minor spoilers, but I just think those moments are just important to mention as well. So I just think when talking about the Phase 4 era itself for this movie, probably the best or even the second best, I still hold No Way Home in high regard. But again, like I said before, Phase 4 MCU era, a bit lackluster. Or maybe it's the TV series that's a bit of a mixed results. Not all the TV series has been bad, but again, looking at this movie as a whole, it's just amazing, especially the cinematography, the emotional depths of the characters. I just thought it was really great. It's still worth a second watch if it's still in cinema. If you saw it once, go watch it again. I just think it's still really great. If you haven't seen it before, I really do encourage it. And the funny thing is that it's already made more money than Black Adam throughout its theatrical run. How ironic is that? But that's still pretty cool nonetheless. So yeah, please go watch Black Panther Wakanda Forever. In a lot of ways, it does pay tribute to Chadwick Boseman very well and very tastefully. It does a tasteful tribute in the end as well to him. The second film that I want to talk about, and trust me, I really like this one. It is so good, and that's The Menu. Seriously, The Menu was so good. It just presented itself as something that was kind of mysterious and became even more and more fascinating as it went on. The amount of insanity was something just, oh my God. It was just so good. I really like this movie, honestly. When you look at a group of characters like this one, who go into a situation that they're invited into, to a mysterious place that's well known, very well advertised as this amazing venue. And then all the people and the hosts are kind of weird in a twisted way. It kind of reminds me of The Island, or a movie title similar that came out, I think, a couple of years ago. Kind of similar plot structure as well. This one is no different, yeah, for sure, but it's still really amazing. And great cast as well, with Anya Taylor-Joy, Nicholas Hoult, Ralph Fiennes. It was so good, especially Ralph Fiennes as the main chef. Oh my God. That guy, great acting career, but he was just so good in this movie. And I really like Anya Taylor-Joy as well in this role. Unexpectedly, she comes in with her date, but really as someone who has no connection to the restaurant business. Not really someone who's a foodie lover, someone who doesn't care too much about cuisines unexpectedly so much, unlike a lot of the other guests. And she joins along with Nicholas Holt's character, Tyler, who, as we see throughout, not exactly the easygoing guy, but who has well-known knowledge of the chef's restaurant known as Julian Slowick. His restaurant called Hawthorne, somewhere in a secluded island. And always has these themes. He's well known with all sorts of menus and all this good stuff. I love the twisted way of how it shows how the menus are presented, which each course you think it's fine, but it gets more twisted as it goes on. And really it's kind of just surprising how violent they can get. I mean, seriously, some of the violent scenes, oh my God. The staff, it's just kind of weird. any question, anything he just says, they have to say in synchronization, like really like, yes, chef, we love you, chef, and all that stuff. Like, oh my God. Like, it's almost like a military camp for a restaurant. That's how fascinating it is. Like, I was in the movie theater just laughing out loud and just really in awe and shock, just like how it was presented, just the courses that was shown, this like the dial. I don't know. It's just like, it was just really interesting. Like, it was just insanity throughout. Like, it just got more insane with, especially with like character deaths and injuring people and like attacking people. Like the show, like what kind of kitchen staff does that? Like, hurts people, it showed like the corruption, like really a corrupted restaurant that just, oh my gosh, so twisted. It was just really good at being mysterious, you know what I mean? And I like how their characters, while a bit cliche, but like either like, a group of men from some rich company, or some washed out movie actor with a young girlfriend, or some old rich couple, a couple of journalists that made them famous that are like food critics, like just kind of seeing how they're all involved in some ways, or even like what kind of connection they may have with the main chef, and like the conflict between Anya's character, Margot, who's, like more of who she is kind of revealed later on, and how her presence has created like some tension with this chef, supposedly because she wasn't on the guest list and wasn't supposed to be there and doesn't really like the food. It's not her thing. So it causes a problem, and he has a hard time figuring out like what to do with her, really. Like, if she's not supposed to be there, what is she supposed to do? What can she do? And so when she incidentally finds out more about him in his past, she uses that to her advantage to escape more catastrophic situations. Because I don't want to spoil what the theme is, but let's just say, like, the theme of his menu throughout the movie gets really extreme. So she finds a way to exploit his weakness that made him once a happy cook and just use it to her advantage. I just thought like the way that this character, Margot or Erin, whatever her name is, like really does a great job of just taking advantage of the situation as she figures it out later on, and also sees the worst of these people. I thought that was really cool and interesting, But like, yeah, I know it's not like blockbuster, action packed, heavy with visual effects and all that stuff. But this is really the kind of movie, like, if you have nothing to see, you should really go just check it out. I really do think it's a really good movie for this month, before all the other good stuff comes in December. But seriously, this was so good. Like, the critics are not joking about how good this movie is. Maybe I'm just exaggerating, but it's really excellent. Fun fact, the actor, excuse me, not the actor, director, Mike Malloyd. You're not going to believe this. His first feature film directing was actually Ali G in the House. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. Ali G in the House was his first movie he directed. A movie from 2002, starring Sacha Baron Cohen. He directed that movie. I'm not even kidding. But yeah, that was just a fun fact for you. But please go check out the menu. It's just really good. Seriously, so good. As you may know already, 2022 has been an eventful year for Warner Brothers Discovery, with the mergers of Discovery Channel, obviously, and bringing more HBO Max content and all that good stuff. And, releasing films as scheduled and so forth, delaying films if there have been any more delays and all that. So with Black Adam recently released, and that's good, money has been fine. Critics divided on the film. But that's not why I'm here. Yes, I'm going to stay on the topic of DC comic books, but the company has announced that they promoted 2 new CEOs for their DC film studios, James Gunn and Peter Safran. And this is a good step for the company. They're trying to now have a new 10-year plan for the next slate of DC films, as if we haven't heard enough of 10-year plans for DC comic book films already. So it's not really the first time, but they've been in charge since the 1st of November, and both of them are really qualified. I think they've been looking for someone that's sort of like a Kevin Feige figure in a way. So it's good that Warner Brothers, has a couple of reliable people that they have a good relationship in charge. Now, obviously, everyone knows Gunn from the Guardians of Galaxy trilogy, and he's still working on it. That's going to come next year. It's nice to know that after everything that's gone on, there's a release date for it. But also, he did a good job on the Suicide Squad that got a dual release, which not everyone was happy about, both theatrical and streaming release. Not everyone was happy about how it was done, but the film itself, excellent. A Peacemaker series, he did a good job. I mean, I didn't give it much of a chance, but everyone loved it, so I guess I should give it another shot. As for Peter Safran, he actually was one of the producers for Aquaman, and that movie made $1 billion in the box office. Even at that time of release, actually made more money than The Dark Knight Rises from 2012. So you can tell how well the success of that movie really did. And this comes at a time when Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav has been trying to making the Warner Media making changes with like laying off employees, cutting content from HBO Max. A lot of changes have been made, and I won't read a statement, but just basically saying how DC so entertaining, iconic characters, powerful and so forth, and the talents of James and Peter as world-class creative directors, in charge, and both had a joint statement telling they're honored and looking forward to a typical statements how people are happy, honored, excited to work forward with these companies and all that good stuff. So they're just trying to find the right footing with these kinds of movies, especially with this slate of films next year with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and the Flash movie for next year, despite the Ezra Miller controversy that seems to be ongoing, and he supposedly needs to go see counseling and therapy from his issues, and supposedly growing a cult and grooming people. It's just really disturbing stuff that he's been finding himself in. But so at least like finding the right direction. And I think both of them are really good leads as CEOs for this. I mean, like probably the best pick. I mean, at least better than Walter Hamada, who I will talk about in a moment regarding Walter Hamada. But at least it's good that like they'll be working closely with Warner film bosses like DeLuca and Pamela Abdi as well. So it's good that like at least the deal for now will be like for 4 years, and Gunn will have like creative control. He'll be like executive on like honing the movies, and Safran as always like a being producer. So they're both placed in positions that they've excelled at before, and they will succeed in again. The remaining question is, will more DC content really do well this time instead of just mixed results like we've seen, sort of like Birds of Prey, for example? So trying to find success like their competitor Marvel has done a good job, despite what I think has gone on with Phase 4, but still trying to have better critical and commercial results going forward instead of like DCEU, maybe like DCU with DC Film Studios with Peter Safran and James Gunn. I'm excited to see how this goes. I think it'll go well. I like Gunn, despite his mistakes in the past and what he said on Twitter, and he's made up for it, and he's paid the consequences for it. But that aside, this looks like a good hiring. So, yeah, it seems like the trajectory will only go up for DC films. All right, guys and gals, as you may know already, or if you've not, just to catch you up to the news, Walter Hamada is no longer one of the producers, one of the executives from Warner Brothers Discovery. He has moved on and signed a new multi-year executive deal with Paramount. And you know what? Despite maybe some tension, maybe some actors that are happy to no longer work with him, he does have a strong track record and has really brought a lot of money to film studios. Like, like I said before, Aquaman making $1.1 billion dollars, and the Conjuring series as a whole making $2 billion dollars at the global box office. So this is really good. However, his new deal does start by the time it's 2023, so it takes effect immediately January 1. So that's all really good news. And, he'll be the architect of Paramount's, mainstream horror genre pod, at least with the mission to release like low to mid budget kind of horror films on, across the year through both theatrical and streaming platforms as well. So this is really good. And Paramount already had, a successful horror film called Smile. Not something for me I wanted to watch personally. I don't know how much money it made, but it seemed to have done well enough, supposedly. And there was a strange marketing campaign sending actors to baseball games smiling and scaring audience members. Just really clever way, but it's just kind of creepy as well. So it's a good thing that Smile, which originally was going to be like a Paramount Plus, eventually became like theatrical as well. And it actually did make $210 million with a $100 million budget. So my bad, I should retract the statement. I thought I didn't know the money, but now I have with me the information on the box office number. So it's a good thing, and it's a good thing for Walter Hamada. His other executive producing credits does include some, multi-Oscar winning films, like The Joker from 2019, starring Joaquin Phoenix. Very excellent. That's truly amazing. Excellent film. Very interesting as well. Very fascinating. I like that Joker film. Also part of other films like The Batman from earlier this year in March. Black Adam, obviously recently. He stayed in there for the Black Adam film, but also like, the Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman 1984, Shazam as well. He may have had some involvement with other upcoming films as well. But like, yeah, so, as I said, starting next year, kind of like the architect of Paramount's horror films. So that would be good to see as well. Citing like how success of Smile has encouraged studio to add more to their portfolio. But prior to being like heading of like DC Studios, he was like executive vice president of production at New Line Cinema, when he had other horror films like Stephen King's It, which has seen 2 chapter films and has made like $704 million. So for someone with strong credentials like him, he's the right man for the job, I think. If you're someone who likes horror films that can be really good, excellent, bring people to cinemas, generate more interest, even generate a lot of talk through social media. It seems like to me, based on his track record, he's the man for the job. And I think he'll do really well, despite his background of like action-packed blockbuster comic book superhero films as well. He could do well with the horror thriller kind of film genre as well for Paramount. Guys and gals, guess who's back as CEO of Disney? Yeah, that's right. I'm not even kidding. Out is Bob Chapek and back in is Bob Iger. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. After previously leaving the position in like January of this year, I believe, Bob Iger is now back as Disney CEO. And this was a shocking turn of events. This is like really a shakeup. And, no one saw this coming, especially when Bob Iger himself did tell the New York Times in an interview back in January that it would be ridiculous to suggest that he'd come back and help the position again, as if he's not going back home. And yet here we are, November 2022, nearly a year out of the job, after helming the position of Disney CEO previously for 15 years. Yeah, in fact, I think like maybe in early 2021, he left and then Bob Chapek was in. But already major shakeups have happened. He's going to talk to employees at a town hall meeting about what to do, what are the plans, and so forth. And already he, one of the first moves is a result of and the exit of the head of the company's media entertainment distribution division, Mr. Kareem Daniel. Now, the thing is, both Kareem Daniel and Bob Chapek have a relationship and a close ally of Bob Chapek, so I think that may have played a role into it. It also hasn't helped that for Disney, their stock has plummeted up and down. At one point, it was like, 40%, and then like extremely high, like 121%, and then like a major free fall down to 52%. So there's been some revenue losses, some financial losses for Disney as well. It hasn't helped that Disney Plus, their main streaming service, hasn't really made them a lot of money. It has been continuing to generate at a loss for them as well, for a lot of reasons. And plus, like some questionable decisions as well when it comes to Bob Chapek being like politically tone deaf or like pretending like everything is fine. Like, so, especially when it comes to some of the decision making that hasn't helped, and he has alienated some creative directors at Disney and kind of like taking away their power and determining whether like a movie's in theater or in streaming on Disney Plus, and plus like it kind of alienated some people when when he botched the company's response to Florida's "Don't Say Gay" bill, and failed to cultivate Bob Iger's support for the initiative. So at least according to Wall Street Journal. So I wouldn't say toxic culture, but not the kind of culture that has exuded some confidence, some goodwill in some ways as well. Not a lot of good feelings. I guess if that makes sense, like not a lot of strong leadership from Bob Chapek, especially when it comes to decision making and sort of the financial losses with his films or TV shows for Disney, and sort of how he's kind of handled the whole COVID-19 pandemic that we've all in, like, especially with Bob Chapek's, how he's handled the Black Widow film. That that was a really main boiling pot, if you will. Like that was really a steaming situation between him and Scarlett Johansson, who sued him and Disney for the losses of the film, because how it was like got a dual release and she settled for $400 million, and both ScarJo and Disney seem to be in good terms now. So it's, again, like I was saying, like there have been a lot of questionable decision making moves that have alienated a lot of people he's worked with, whether it's like celebrities or like some creative directors, loss of confidence with the shareholders. And so it's good that Bob Iger is back, but it may be just for 2 years, as far as that's just my understanding. It may be for like temporary for 2 years until he could find someone who's more of a fit as a new role in the new role of CEO at Disney. But I think will at least put the company in the right direction. He's in there trying to steer Disney in the right direction. Before he stepped down, he agreed to be like a consultant of some kind for Disney, just to help Chapek or something like that, just to work with Chapek just for a little while. But at least now, it seems like he's a very well liked person. Bob Iger is known to be really like have high quality, leadership skills as well. Someone who's very well liked. So I think this is a good thing that he's back. It's nice to see Bob Iger back. Now, I don't think he's going to get rid of Disney Plus. Let's calm down there. I don't think he'll at all get rid of Disney Plus. Come on. It'll still be a booming streaming business for them. It's just, there needs to be a way so that, it's not losing money for them, and instead trying to help Disney for their streaming service, trying to make more money as well, and see what kind of content other than just, because the original content, it's good, regardless of what you think of like recent releases like Hocus Pocus 2 and whatever. But I think with Bob Iger back in the fold, they'll be more than fine. All right, guys and gals, just one more topic for this episode. I want to bring to your attention what may end up becoming a major social media platform called Mastodon. Yeah, Mastodon is a name that's been making news recently with all the changes that's been going on with Twitter, and especially throughout the year with the whole Elon Musk Twitter saga, that's really been a fascinating situation to keep an eye on. And, with employees leaving and celebrities saying they're out on Twitter because of Elon Musk, and with his old emphasis on free speech, which while free speech is fine, in some ways there are some consequences when someone is allowed to freely say something. There are consequences to the words, and sometimes those words, when they're said publicly, you know can spew a lot of hate. There's crime, anger, everything that's negative that can come out of Twitter. And so when a lot of well-known public figures use Twitter, you know for hate speech, or inspiring crimes of some sort, it does become a concerning platform. And so that's why Jack Dorsey, you know, suspended some well-known accounts. I won't say who, but he didn't shy from making sure some well-known people who were on Twitter got their accounts suspended. And now with Elon Musk, he's back to reactivating them again. But so why does Mastodon figure in this discussion? So let me just explain. It's just like it's another free software, another free social media software. It has like it's for running self-hosted network services. It does have microblogging features like Twitter, and can publish short posts, and they can go to a central feed. You can join like a server of any kind of topic, and you can rename, and you can remain anonymous as well. It's like a self-governed approach, and giving you decision-making power of how the platform functions and what you can do with the servers. And it's almost like a a server made for communities, almost like subreddit servers, and they're moderated by volunteers, and they can create rules and protocols. It's kind of like joining communities, while in some ways it sort of reminds me of Discord. Discord encourages people to create communities and join communities with each other about anything, you know, pop culture stuff, gaming, whatever it is. Mastodon sort of has like some available servers that, for your regional area, local area, you can create them. Sort of that sort of way, remain anonymous, secure. And like again, another thing, microblogging, sharing and creating kind of like posts similar to what Twitter has. So I think sooner or later, Mastodon will be another major force in the social media platform. And even, who knows, like, will more digital marketing companies use Mastodon? Maybe. I'm going to say maybe. But already more and more of them use Facebook and Instagram, and I think less of Twitter. Twitter kind of more like for Q&As, like for Q&A sessions, just for texting, communicating, instead of Facebook and Facebook and Instagram really encouraging more visuals and can easily be more interactive, especially since they're both meta platforms as well. So, I think Mastodon, maybe not now, but because of what's going on with the Elon Musk Twitter saga, it is growing a name of itself. It's been around since 2016. It's just taken a lot of time to really be like a more reliable alternative name in some, for some circles. But I think it's pretty cool. I haven't really used it much. I haven't really used Mastodon personally. I haven't really created accounts, but I think it can work well. Since again, it encourages communities and encourages volunteers to create communities. Similar concept to Discord. It takes a mixture of both Twitter and Discord. Now that I think about it, I really do think this can work well for them. All right, guys and gals, that pretty much wraps up this episode of the Films of Pixels podcast, episode 28. Again, I just want to thank everyone from watching and listening from beginning to end. It does mean a lot to me. I really do appreciate it, even if it's a small number of you, a small group of people. It means a lot. I'm just glad that you've been, educated or entertained from the topics of this episode. Thank you. It means a lot. If you haven't subscribed before, please do so. I encourage you to subscribe. I encourage comments. Please like this video if you haven't done so. If you like it, please do so. It means a lot. And really thank you. Just thank you for just being there for me. It means a lot. I really do appreciate it. But yeah, I'm just thankful, that I just make an effort. Slowly but surely it'll work well. Thank you for just watching and listening to the Films and Pixels podcast. I'm your host, Afif. Good day and good night.